Imagine climbing through air so thin your breath tastes metallic. The canopy trembles. Somewhere above, an enemy with years of combat is waiting. You hear them on the radio first, laughing. Their fighters are slim, quick, confident. Yours is not. Yours is a brute. Thick wings, a round engine like a battering ram, and 8 heavy guns that, if they ever line up, do not argue. They end arguments. This is the story of the P-47 Thunderbolt, the airplane Axis pilots initially joked about, then learned to fear, and finally tried to avoid. Not because it danced better, but because it fought like a sledgehammer in a world built for rapiers. Stay with me to the end, because the twist is not just about a plane. It is about how design choices, tactics, and industrial math can overturn battlefield experience. The P-47 is how too big, too heavy, too late became too fast, too tough, too many. The misread. Early in 1943, American fighter units enter Europe with almost no dogfight experience against the Luftwaffe. Across from them, pilots who survived Poland, France, the Battle of Britain, the Eastern Front. On looks alone, you would bet on the Germans. And they did. The P-47 seemed like a dare from engineers. Wide fuselage, greenhouse canopy, and a mass that pushed runway limits. What outsiders missed was that the P-47's awkwardness came from a specific design logic. A massive turbo supercharger tucked deep into the fuselage with long runs of ducting was not pretty, but it gave the engine near sea-level power high in the thin air. Where many fighters suffocated above 25,000 feet, the Jug could still punch. Yet, first weeks were rough. Training accidents piled up. Pilots had to unlearn reflexes from lighter aircraft. Torque roll on takeoff, ground loops, compressibility in steep dives. And in combat, anyone who tried to turn-fight a Focke-Wulf or a Bf-109 learned expensive lessons. For a short stretch, the scoreboard reflected those lessons. Here is the subtle shift. The P-47 did not need to win at turning or low-altitude climbing. It needed to redefine the fight. Altitude is stored energy. Mass is momentum. A radial engine without coolant is a damage sponge. 8 synchronized guns can draw a box of death in the sky that a target must fly through only once. The tipping point. Tactics catch up. Once squadrons stopped trying to dance and started sprinting downhill, everything changed. High cover, roll inverted, push into a dive, let gravity and horsepower build speed beyond what a pursuer could safely reach. On the merge, fire short, disciplined bursts into a preset convergence zone the size of a door. Pull out shallow, convert speed back into altitude in a zoom climb, reset. This is boom and zoom. It is not a duel. It is an ambush with airspeed. The P-47's real virtues, dive speed, airframe strength, battery weight, unlock only if the pilot refuses the turn fight. The plane rewards restraint, not bravado. In parallel came an education in survivability. The radial engine could take hits that would bleed a liquid-cooled in seconds. Armor glass, armor plate, stout spars, and redundant controls kept bullets from becoming funerals. Crews learned to bring home aircraft that looked like colanders. Each recovery was a masterclass for the unit. Where the structure failed, where it refused to fail, how to route hoses and cables for the next pilot's second chance. As operations expanded, the P-47's altitude performance increasingly mattered. Up high, the turbo kept power up while German engines faded. The Jug could start above its prey, end above its prey, and choose whether there would even be a fight. Hardware evolves, doctrine deepens. American industry rarely leaves a platform alone. Props grow wider and paddle-shaped, grabbing more air, improving climb and acceleration. Drop tanks extend reach. Cockpit ergonomics, already decent, improve as squadrons feedback real operational needs. The result is not a different airplane, but a different personality. Still heavy, still blunt, but now quick to build energy and much harder to trap. Escorts become viable deeper into hostile territory. Even once longer-legged Mustangs arrive and take the longest routes, the Jug refuses to be sidelined. It becomes a scalpel for one target set and a hammer for another, a fighter that punishes anything slow and a fighter-bomber that punishes anything exposed. Pilots also get better, measurably. Training pipelines accelerate without hollowing out quality. Gun camera film is studied. Convergence is tuned per pilot preference and mission profile. Ammunition belts are mixed in patterns that maximize the chance of both structural failure and ignition. Units adopt altitude blocks, free hunts, disciplined radio brevity, and rules of disengagement that keep energy in the bank. Turning the ground war daylight opaque. If you control the day, the enemy must move at night. That simple truth becomes the daily headache of German logistics. The P-47, fast, tough, easy to maintain in the field, turns highways, rail yards, bridges, marshalling areas, and even tree-lined lanes into liabilities. Look closely at why. A short 2-second burst of 850s throws a storm of heavy projectiles that do more than perforate. They set fuel alight, snap steering linkages, and pepper crews. Add bombs on wing racks and later a belly station, then add unguided 5-inch rockets. You get an airplane that can open a convoy, crack a locomotive's boiler, or erase a column of soft-skin vehicles in a single pass. Survivors often can't move because the road is literally on fire. Morale effects compound the physical damage. Troops and drivers begin to associate a sound, an unmistakable rolling thunder of paddle blade tips flirting with transonic speed, with bad outcomes. Infantry who once shrugged at strafing now sprint for hedgerows before the first rocket leaves a rail. The P-47 turns daylight into a curfew. The Pacific lesson. Across an ocean, the P-47's personality proves portable. The Pacific demands range, reliability, and resilience against weather and long overwater legs. The Jug's radial engine is at home here. Japanese fighters are agile but lightly built and often lightly protected. Against 850s, fragility is a losing proposition. As range-extended variants appear, the P-47 escorts heavy bombers and applies the same arithmetic of speed and mass to a different set of adversaries. Jets, odds, and the power of enough. German jets complicate the picture but do not erase it. On takeoff or landing, even a fast jet is a predictable path. From altitude in a dive, a P-47 can close if the pilot judges angle and timing. More important is the doctrine shift. The Jug does not need to win a drag race. It needs to make the few seconds of overlap count. One controlled burst from 8 guns could rip apart structures optimized for speed, not punishment. The deeper story is not the occasional jet interception. It is the attrition curve. When you can replace aircraft in days and pilots in sufficient numbers, tactical setbacks do not become strategic losses. When your opponent loses irreplaceable veterans and can't keep fuel flowing, even an advantage at the edge of performance envelopes cannot compensate. The Jug is not just a machine. It is a node in a supply and training system that keeps showing up. Why the P-47 worked. Let us break down the engineering to effects chain. Energy tactics fit the hardware. A turbo-supercharged radial, big wings with stout spars, and high dive tolerance beg to be used in vertical fights. Pilots learn to convert height to speed and then back to height, keeping initiative. Survivability buys learning. Crews that survive bring back data. Data refines tactics, maintenance, and loadouts. Survival also preserves trained pilots, the scarcest component in a fighter squadron. Firepower density changes the probability game. Cannon shells are individually powerful but few in number. 8 heavy machine guns throw a statistical net. A brief, accurate burst places enough rounds into a small space to guarantee critical hits without perfect aim. Industrial capacity is a weapon. Spare parts, ammunition, fuel, and aircraft replacements keep tempo high. Training syllabi that include instrument flying, gunnery film study, and standardized procedures make pilots predictable in the way a formation needs. When a design harmonizes with doctrine and with an industrial base, the result looks like destiny to the enemy. It is not destiny, it is alignment. Respect earned the hard way. Many German pilots who began by mocking the jug ended by warning newcomers about it. The change was not mystical, it was empirical. When a plane repeatedly dives through your formation at speeds you should not chase, when its bullets cut aircraft in half, when damaged examples still crawl home while your friends do not, perceptions adjust. There is also the psychology of noise. The P-47's acoustic signature, big prop, big engine, high tip speed, became part of its effect. Stories from both fronts underline that recognition. Even after the war, veterans could identify the jug by sound on an airshow pass. That noise once meant get small, get covered, and hope it's someone else's turn.